An agenda. Good evening, everyone. I hope we're in the lamb part of March instead of the lion that we were having earlier.
Back to the lawn.
Or today. I'm fingers crossed to keeping it up. This is the March 13th Land Use Committee meeting of Manhattan Community Board 2. We have members present in person and online. My name is Katie Bordenaro, and I am co-chair. And we're going to go around the room, starting here to my right, and just would everyone introduce themselves, please?
Frederica Siegel. Susan Wittenberg. Donna Raftery. Anita Brandt.
Albert DeBono.
And online, Eugene, will you start the online introductions, please?
Yes, I'm Eugene, co-chair of Land Use.
I'm Michael Levine, member of the Land Use Committee.
Sean?
Sean Sweeney, Public Member, Land Use Committee.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm just checking to make sure.
We also have Carter Booth.
Yep, I'm here as well, but I'm walking, so I won't
Some.
have the
Carter
benefit of
Booth is
camera.
present.
We'll count him when he officially when he gets here. Stella is not here. Did you get an email from her?
He's officially
Stella
remote.
is remote. Stella is absent today.
Okay, absent with notice. Thank you.
And John Paul DeVerna will also be absent with notice.
Who?
John Paul DeVerna.
Oh, John Paul DeVerna. And I spoke to David earlier. I thought he was attending. So we'll see if he's going to come. We have one item on the agenda, and I see that Mr. Solfaro is here, representing the owners of 110 Christopher Street. Thank you for returning.
You're welcome.
Do you want to tell us, you were here last time.
Yes.
We asked you to put notices up in the building about your application. And I know that we heard by email that you did it. I have a copy of the notice in front of me. Can you explain to everyone what you did with the notice and how it was distributed?
Management advised me that they distributed the leaflet, the notice leaflet throughout the building, one to each apartment. There are 30 apartments in the building. Also, they posted at the elevators, at the stairway, and also the entrance in the hallway, and also outside the building in close proximity to the 110.
Okay, and did you get any response to these postings?
Nobody contacted me at all. No, it's possible
Okay.
they contacted the building. Management hasn't advised me of any information that came in.
What's his phone number on there? Or even his name?
No, it's all.
Get back to the board. Okay. Well, we did get one email
Okay.
from Shelley Newton. I'm a resident of 110 Christopher Street and writing in response to the public hearing planned for March 13th. I severely oppose this petition to allow the space to be used as an art gallery and music store. This building is primarily residential with many long-term residents, and the tenants in the space in question have been extremely disruptive during their occupancy. There is consistently loud noise, talking, yelling, slamming doors coming from inside and outside of the space. There's no indication that the current occupancy is being used for legitimate business. No signage outside, an occasional poster board taped up on the railing, and no set hours to speak of with people coming in and out during all the hours of the day and night. Thanks for your consideration. I feel there is likely a more appropriate space for this business elsewhere in the neighborhood or city. So we did receive one email, Mr. Solfaro, And I believe there's another person here from the building.
Yep.
Are you going to be able to tell us a little bit about?
Sure.
What's your,
Can we hear from the attorney first and hear the rest of his presentation?
Yes, could we
you need to
hear
review
from the
it?
attorney?
Okay, people would like to review it. I'm sorry, I read it over. We heard it before and I read it over before I came, so.
What are we reading over?
The application.
From last month,
Yeah, what we had got left.
right, okay.
You want to just repeat what your variance is for before we get a few more comments? It's
Okay.
just,
The building is a mixed-use building. Variance was granted in 1960 for a term of years. It continued until the present. The expiration date currently is February 25th of this year. We are filing for an extension of the term of the variance for an additional period of 10 years, which would include continuing the retail uses in the cellar space. Prior to this application, 10 years ago, there was a custom dressmaker. They have closed shop and removed their things. And the westerly-most space was used for an office. This time we have in the cellar space an art gallery and a music store. Our application is to change the permitted retail uses in the cellar space to those two particular uses. Other than that, no construction is proposed, no physical modifications to the building. And that is the sum and substance of the application.
well, I just want to ask you a couple questions because I printed out the two architectural renderings. So
Okay.
you used to have, there are 4 spaces in the front of the basement. One's a meter room and storage, so that's not used publicly. Then the custom dressmaking seemed to have its production space. Then it had its sales room, and then it had its office. So am I correct in understanding that the dressmaking space had all 3 of those spaces?
No, the dressmaking place had the 2 middle spaces.
Who was in the office then?
There was just an office space that was rented for a period of time to an individual. In the times that I've been there, I've never been able to get access to that office space. And I never met the person who was the tenant. However, at this time, that small space is being used by one individual for the music store.
Huh. I don't see that the office was ever permitted. I see the dressmaking space was permitted. Do you?
Yeah, I would want to see it all.
Yeah, to see a posted cellar
No, I'm sorry, I'm looking for,
dressmaking and offices,
and offices,
2015 one.
custom dressmaking and offices.
And what's the date on that one?
That CO was issued, let's see, 11/30/2015.
Okay, so that's the BSA variance. I don't see that we had permitted that, but okay. That's not in our resolution. So that's a little bit news to us. Okay. Any members of the committee have any questions for Mr. Silvaro? Frederica.
So it says here, application to extend the existing variance to permit the continued use of the cellar space for commercial uses and to amend the variance to permit the use of the cellar spaces as an art gallery and a music store. Isn't that a continued use of commercial space, commercial use, but
Yes, sir.
simply a different tenant? It's not a different code, is it?
It's not, in terms of zoning or the zoning criteria, all of those uses fall within what we call use group 6.
Exactly. So it's a little bit of a misnomer to say that you want to permit the use of the art gallery and a music store. You want to simply continue the commercial use.
That was our position, and I initially filed with the zoning board and BSA.
I'm sorry, but something about the sound is hard to follow.
Yeah, it's hard to understand. I think maybe you're, I don't know what it is.
Maybe step back a little bit.
All right. Is this any better?
Yeah,
Let's see. Mhm.
Okay. We first filed with the zoning board. I took that position that there wasn't any change of use because we remained within the same retail use group 6. However, the zoning board took the position that you have to file for an amendment and specifically change or propose to change from custom dressmaking to art gallery and from office to music store, even though they are within the same use group. Had I brought that application to the building department, I think they would have just accepted it outright. They have memos that authorize that. However, BSA indicated, no, you have to file for an amendment, and we did. So we dotted the i's and crossed the t's.
Well, okay, I don't know if, I mean, I've been sitting here for 10 years and I've never known them to force you to come back and change the tenant uses. So to me, the only issue is really the noise. And have you made?
Is the variance running out though? When does that?
It's already run out.
It's
February.
And it expired last month.
So they do have to come back.
Yes, they do, but they don't have to come back for, it's not like they're changing the use group.
Can I ask a question? Because.
Sorry. Anyway, has anybody ever, any of the management ever been made aware of the noise to your knowledge?
No, I asked them specifically after the last hearing, is there any amplified music? And they said no. Now, I have been in the space for the music store and I don't see any amplification in there.
There's more sources of noise than perhaps just a music store, but thank you.
Well, the music doesn't have to be amplified here.
Right.
Okay, so, but you've been asked to come to us to have these specific music store, an art gallery, to make us aware of it and for us to approve them. That's what the BSA has asked you to do. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's what we've done.
Yes, okay, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Oh, Michael has his hand up. Thank you so much, Mark.
Yes, thank you. I'm a bit confused. If in fact these uses are use group 6 and they're permitted, when you filed originally with the buildings department, did they tell you you had to get a variance from the Board of Standards and Appeals? Or what made you go to the Board of Standards and Appeals? If it's a permitted use group 6 use, why did you go to the Board of Standards and Appeals for the variance? I'm a bit confused as to why you took this action. I think the buildings department would have approved it as of right. Am I wrong, right or wrong here?
Well, let me explain. You have to keep in mind that the property is in a residential zone. So the residential uses are permitted as of right. The retail stores are not. That's what the variance is for. We went to the board to renew the term because it was a temporary term that was allowed and it just expired last month. We seek to renew that. In so doing, they asked us to also file an amendment to the application and specify what the retail uses will be.
So can you inform us what is the current zoning district now?
I think it's R6.
R6, okay. That explains it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions from the committee? I think we have a member of the public here who would like to speak.
Yeah.
Can you just tell your name, introduce yourselves a little bit?
You also, can you hear, can they hear you?
Can you hear me?
You should come up to the.
Yes,
Could they come closer to the microphone?
yeah, yes, you give us a minute.
Is it?
I just got the big table in Thanksgiving.
Big
You
people.
got away from the kids.
Obviously, I don't.
So what's your name?
I'm sorry, Greg Kiernan. I've lived at 110 Christopher for 4.5 years. This is the very first time in all the time that I've lived there that anybody in the building has seen anything remotely like this or been notified anything like this. And there were other people that said they were going to join on the Zoom, but I'm going to figure it out coming down.
It may be there. We haven't
We haven't gotten there.
Yes, Barbara and others, yes. We're very concerned about this because of a plethora of things, aside from the loud noise, et cetera. And nowhere in here that I read the entire application. At no point did I ever see that it said specifically that it could become a dress. It just a dress shop.
It was.
That it was previously, and what they're asking for is essentially a continuance of having a retail store in a space that already was, but it was never approved for that. It was just assumed it was okay. It's an example of it's
Wasn't a variance.
for a dress shop. No, but for offices,
No,
yes.
for use group 6.
Use group 6.
I'm sorry, I don't know what that. I'm
There's a
specifically.
million things in use group 6.
The dress shop is
Have to specify.
much longer than 10 years ago.
I read it, but I didn't know what it meant. I decided to find it.
Concerned about that one.
No, it got thrown off.
But it was,
And just because you didn't see notices ever before posted in your building, it may only mean there weren't reasons for them to be posted. It's not like things would get posted.
Well, I've been there for 20 odd years, and you would think that something that's coming up in front of a board of some sort, that people that would live there in that it's a residential area.
What's the concern though? I mean, I don't.
Well,
I have a question. Did you say
See
you
the
lived there
picture?
4.5 years or 20? You said you lived, how many, how long have you lived there?
24,
Oh, 24.5 years.
yes.
So do you have paperwork? There's 30 other apartments. Do you have paperwork from any of the other apartments besides yourself?
Meaning paperwork as,
Who signed on to your point of view?
Well, he hasn't, first,
We're in
I'd
opposition.
just like to say he hasn't finished his point of view, number one. We don't know what it is. And number two, he didn't say, I don't believe I heard him say that he was
Yeah,
represented.
that's why I'm asking.
oh, no, yeah, I'm not. I
said other people.
said that there are other people that,
Okay, so we reassured you about they didn't have to specify dress shops, so a use group 6. So, but be clear now what your
one of the things that I've seen repeatedly in all of the variants and the renewals is that the place must be kept quiet and clean, and it is anything but. It has gotten to the point on Christopher Street on this particular block that it has become very popular, as obviously, they want to capitalize on, and in that regard, I couldn't blame them. But it has gotten to the point where we can't get into the building because there's lines going across the front of our building. Now, both entrances to downstairs are from the front of the building. It's just too much traffic, and there's too much garbage. There's been restaurants that have opened next door, et cetera.
But lines for the art
Lines-
gallery.
Line for the pizza place block the entrances to the building. Not just our building, for us, this is our, essentially our only egress point. And it's the same for downstairs. There's no other way to get downstairs.
But is it his pizza place?
No, but I'm just trying to
Okay.
give a picture because, I understand. But
Yeah.
the amount of trash that ends up in this, have you seen the pictures of what this is? It's essentially a garbage pit.
yeah.
But that's generated from the pizza place.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
that's,
no,
that's
everyone,
on at most of our blocks. I hate to break.
I understand, but this particular spot is also used. And I'll be blunt, I've seen people taking shits down there. I've seen drugs being done down there. It's,
To the use group 6 businesses in the cellar. I understand. It's their entrance. It's their entrance.
it's the entrance and it's supposed to be kept.
But your issue is with other landlords.
No, the issue is with what's written in here saying that they have to keep it clean.
Okay, that's clear. So
in other
your
words,
Very clear, yeah.
they should be cleaning up other.
It's never been cleaned, yes. And
it's their property and they have to clean it up. Got
in order to keep, it says in order to get this, yeah.
Can I make a suggestion in response to that? It is a common problem, on my projects as well, and the way the best way to deal with that is require additional bright lights. So that people are not interested in going down to this nice dark hole, if you will. So, which invites a lot of, unfortunate activities. We could request additional, security lighting,
Yeah,
and it makes it less attractive.
but that's not about cleaning up the
No, correct.
the garbage.
Garbage, no.
And could you talk to us about the source of the noise?
Well, I'm at the other end of the building, but I have been in, my friends' apartments that are there. It's from downstairs. I mean, it's obvious. They're, I guess it's the art gallery that they're saying it's gonna be, they put up weird signs over the last 2 years from being a coffee shop to being a porn store to, I mean, there's been nothing that has said anything about an art gallery. And there's people coming in and out at different times, but there's no set time that this is a thing. I mean, fine, if you're gonna run a business however you want. But there is no open hours as it says in the application. The music guy seems to be a nice guy. I've never spoken to him, but I don't know how loud it gets because I'm not right above it.
But they're playing music there, or it's just?
I don't know. I can't answer to it. Yeah,
They're not-
I don't know.
Are they
I honestly-
there now? They're not in there yet, are they?
Yes.
They are, they're existing.
And the art gallery's in there now?
This is why I'm saying it's, like a matter of, asking for, forgiveness as opposed to permission.
We should also, address the signage part.
Yes.
That there should be no taped up poster boards.
And that's been a problem over the years.
And hours.
But there's no complaints about the noise from the people who live near the noise?
We don't know yet. People don't know yet.
She lives directly above the music.
Then, yeah.
So we have, people from the community going to speak on this problem.
Of course.
Is the lawyer still on?
Oh, where's Mr. Sofaro?
He went to get the.
Is the lawyer still on?
He's still there.
I'm still here.
So.
I actually just, while you were-
Eugene, David, is your?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, on the issue of the noise complaints, I just looked at 311 and looked up the address for 110 Christopher. It looks like there are, I don't know, maybe about 15 noise complaints, although I have to say there's more than 15 residential noise complaints, although it's not easy to say whether or not the source of the complaint is from the business. But there are noise complaints for this address.
Over what period of time, Eugene?
This is from 2010 to now.
Yeah.
And in the current iteration of the tenant?
Most people don't call 311.
So 15 complaints in 15.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please.
The music store as it exists now, is it a record store? Are they playing music there? Are they selling retail instruments? What exactly? I mean, music store could be anything. I'm asking this to the lawyer.
Mr. Sofaro, can
I'll tell you what I saw when I was there.
you turn on your camera so we can see you again, please? Appreciate it.
I don't know why it went off, but
Or can you do it anyway?
let me just explain because I don't know how to work the mechanics on this machine. If you remember, I had trouble with it last time. I'm glad you can hear me at least at this time. Inside the music store, there's one person. He teaches music. He stores a number of instruments there. He had in the back room one electric piano, and he had about 15 antique guitars. They were, well, let me see if getting a notice here. They were mostly acoustical guitars, like nylon string, and he played them for me and showed me what what is it?
Those guitars are for retail sales?
Yeah, I believe he does sales there as well. It's sort of like a combined operation, but I don't think it's an intensive type of operation where you got a lot of people coming in and out. I think it's more of an isolated thing.
Oh, I see Mr. Peters is on. We can talk to him. David, do you see on the chat? Mr. Peters at the music store?
I'm sorry, tell me,
Yeah, there's a chat up right now.
what's it say? I can't read it.
It says he has.
We can ask him. Would it be all
He
right?
uses it
He's
as
a-
storage.
He says he uses it in an office and a music store.
But he's been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
I believe that that's a different office.
The music store has been there about only a few months.
I'm talking about the music store now.
Can we elevate him?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, can you? Yeah. Can we?
That is the music store.
Mr. Peters, we'd like to talk to you too. And we're gonna bring you up so you can put your camera on. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
So can you tell us a little bit about your business, how long you've been there?
Yeah, I've been there for 20 years. Yeah, maybe even a little longer than that. It was an empty, I built the place out and cleaned it out, and I have a commercial lease there. My business is sort of licensing music around the world to people. So I use it as an office, and I license music to movies or TV shows and stuff like that. And I have some acoustic instruments that I keep in storage there. But I'm not I've been there 20 years. I've never had a complaint. I'm quiet. I'm orderly. And the noise they're talking about from the street, that's always been there. There's the pizza place next door. There's all sorts of crazy people out on the street, but I keep myself to myself, and everything's been fine. There was an art gallery that moved in a couple of years ago, something like that. I don't have anything to do with them, and I'm just in the little music store office. It says music store. I mean, I sell music, but it's I don't make it there.
Do you teach music in that space?
No, I don't teach music. No, I teach my son to play the guitar, but that's at home.
But do you have members of the public coming into the store?
No.
Is there another music entity in the same downstairs?
No.
So
You never play. Do you play instruments in that space at all?
Well, I sometimes play an acoustic guitar or something like that, and I have a.
But the public doesn't come in there? You don't
No,
have-
He said no.
no,
It's like an office. It's like an internet.
music lessons, remember? Yeah.
no. I don't give music lessons.
Were you there when the dressmaker was there?
Yes, she was a very nice lady.
So it was you and the dressmaker, and now it's you and the
Well, she
art.
was in the other. She was in the other. She was in the other part. There's a couple of offices down there, or cellar rooms. She was making dresses in one room, and I was running my business out of the other room. She left, and she's a very nice lady.
Who was across the hall from you?
I don't know her name. I keep myself to myself.
No.
It was the dress lady, and now
She was across the hall. Okay,
yeah, she was across the hall, and now it's the art gallery.
okay. Any other questions for Mr. Peters?
No,
Have I been of help?
Thank you.
thank you.
Just one last, the business about the hours. Do you
Yeah,
have,
I run business hours.
does it say on the door what your hours are?
Well, nobody comes to my door.
Not a store.
I have a sign on the door that says music store. It's kind of a joke because I sell music, but I sell the music.
So are you there 9 to 5?
The gallery, I mean, do they seem to have a function as a gallery or?
They seem to have a function as a gallery, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Nice.
And you're
Nice to
there
meet you.
9 to 5. Your hours might be 9 to 5 or 10 to 6?
Probably more like 10 to 6.
Okay. Okay, that's very helpful.
Okay.
Wait a minute, Donna,
just-
your hand up.
What, looking at the plans here, it looks like there are 3 office spaces down there. 2 in this,
In the center.
2 in the center, and then 1 to the west. So which one are you in? Are you in the western?
I'm at the front. I'm at the front by where the stairs are. West, is that west sort of, that's the closest to the river, I suppose, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm at the front in that, and then
In that one, okay.
yeah,
And then
the
the dressmaker is to the.
dressmaker was next to me, and behind me is the storage.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think there are other members of the public here. We'd like to have you participate. Mark?
I just want to make sure that Mr. Kiernan was
You,
finished with what.
everybody answered the same question with them just then.
Okay, well, please stay.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Obrisky? I think
Yes,
you're,
yes, that's me.
hi, Mark.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming. Can you tell us where you live and what your comments are about this application?
Sure. I live on the 2nd floor in the building. I'm actually on the same floor as Greg. And I have my apartment, like the middle shaft that carries all the noise up and down through the building. My window, my kitchen is directly next to that. And my experience with this art gallery is I've made a lot of those complaints on 311 because I didn't know who else to contact. And in fact, I can pop them up right now and read you what they are, but they were very specifically about the basement, about them having parties and serving alcohol late and being very noisy. There's a back door in that space. I've never been down in that space because for some reason I don't feel like we're allowed into this public gallery thing. It's not very inviting, but anyway, they open up the back door and they hang out in the back area and smoke, drink, and are very loud, and that noise carries up throughout the building. Now, none of this is during the daytime, not any normal operating hours for an art gallery that I've ever been to. These are all after hour events. I get home from work late, around 8:30 at night, usually, and this is usually around 9 or 10, and sometimes later. The noise is very loud. I've yelled down into the thing to ask them to please shut the door and stop. They can be a little chatty back and with not the nicest responses. I think they're very disruptive and disrespectful noise level in the building. Eugene, if you go back and you look at those 311 complaints, you will see that they are very specifically about the basement. One says there are parties and gatherings happening 1 to 2 times a week in the basement of the building. This space is being used as a cafe to host parties where alcohol and food are being served to groups of people who are very loud and disrespectful to the tenants in the building. It can be heard throughout the building. The next one says the basement in the basement area, these people are having continuous gatherings, parties, and events in a non-event space, and voices and yelling and loud laughter traveling up to units all hours of the night. It's very disruptive. They are leaving trash after these get-togethers, attracting rats and roaches. Strangers are coming and going. They leave the gates open. They're disrespectful to the tenants of the building and leaving the property and the neighbors vulnerable. It's not a great crowd that comes in and out of there. As far as Peter, I've never seen Peter before, so he must be very, very quiet, and he has nothing to do with this. And I'm happy to have him as a neighbor. But this art space, this is not a gallery. I'm an artist. This place is not a gallery because there's never an invitation to go inside. There's no art to be viewed. There is nothing anywhere. They put drapes over the windows so you can't see inside. If I was an art gallery, I would want somebody walking by to look inside my building and see the beautiful art on the walls or whatever I'm displaying or showing. This they keep it under a guise and they operate it for their own purposes. It seems more like a social space where they're drinking and hanging out, and it's loud. I mean, that without me going on and on, because I can, that is my feeling on it.
You're talking about the space that's designated as the art space, right? The art
Exactly.
gallery.
Yep, that's the only space I'm talking about. It's the only one in question.
But do we know, can we ask?
We have hands.
Yeah,
Bo, Frederica, Donna.
so can I ask Mr. Salfaro who the operator is of that supposed art space?
Yes.
And are they here?
Oh, I don't think they're here. I don't see them. But there's one person, and her name is Jane. I have to look on the drawings. The drawings say the name on the sign. Jane something, here. Jane McDonald.
Can you represent that they are in fact operating an art gallery, or is there any, do you think there's any truth to this accusation that they're operating some kind of a club or restaurant?
Well, obviously I'm not there at night, so I don't know what takes place.
I don't know, maybe you are there. I mean, you could go there at night. But okay.
Well, I haven't. The times that I've been there, I did see artwork on display inside both rooms, both spaces. And some was painting, some was sculpture, some was in the process being worked on.
Okay, so it seems to me that we could reasonably assume that there is some sort of an art gallery. And the question now is, what is the use of this space? Maybe after hours of 9 o'clock on, what is the use? Do you have any knowledge as to whether or not this space is used for parties or get-togethers or social activity or commercial activity or anything like that?
I do not, but I mean, it's something to investigate and find out.
Okay, you don't know.
Could
Okay.
also be a
I don't,
gallery.
because I haven't witnessed it.
Frederica has a question.
Yeah, so Mark, have you ever contacted the owner of the building about your complaints?
I
And
have
we-
not. I wasn't really. I've been in the building almost 3 years. I wasn't really sure how to do that. I wasn't sure where I didn't know what to do. I thought the best thing to do was good old 311. I wasn't sure. I called the police.
But you
and
do
they
write a
told me to
rent
call
check?
311. What's that?
You write a rent check to an address, a person, a company?
I paid direct pay online, a click pay.
Yeah, but to some, well, Mr. Solfaro, who's the owner?
If for the future, I think that's a good thing for me to know, but I didn't really know how to.
Who is your client, Mr. Solfaro?
S&W Management, they run the building for the owner, which is 110 Christopher LLC.
And who's the person behind 110 Christopher?
Take a look. I think it was Marshall Grabois.
Marshall?
Grabois.
Steve Croman.
I don't know. I can't hear the last name, but anyway, did you ever, Mr. Solfaro, did you ever think of having the owner accompany to this meeting?
Yes, if there was good reason, yes, we could.
Okay.
Okay, Donna and then Anita.
I wanted to go to the layout and understand from what was indicated on here as the dressmaking spaces, the two center spaces. Do they have access to that open yard in the back?
The whole building has access, I think, to the space in the back. I walked around through it, so yes, I know that you can go from the front of the building to the back of the building and around to both sides. That's tenant storage space, so obviously everybody in the building can get to use the tenant storage space.
There's a court.
Right, but then there's an open yard behind the tenant storage space.
And then
I have a suggestion about that. Because there's no need for that, the door that leads to the tenant space to be unlocked. It can be locked. There's no means of egress. They don't have to egress through this backyard. Here.
what do you think about what that could?
Oh, that's just an air shaft.
That's what we're talking about for the noise.
Oh,
In the air shaft?
Because there's a door, I'm sorry, can I approach? I mean,
Yeah, sure.
there are doors or massive, like essentially doors, windows that go into this space. And that is where these people.
So this is bouncing back and
This
forth.
is all that, we don't have any access to anything back here at all.
They're in here?
They're in here.
No,
yes.
the noise is
So this
echoing
goes
into the shaft. I
breezeway.
understand.
and every apartment on that side of the building opens onto them.
Yes, it's called tenement law. That's
Yes,
how.
yeah, I'm sorry.
I would say that maybe we should require a soundproofing on those windows.
And they'd have to stay closed.
Stay closed and whatever.
Not approved for eating and drinking. I mean, they're.
Right, that's what's going on there.
Absolutely not.
And
Even-
smoking
Even
inside the
one
building.
voice can echo up in there if you're sitting next to an
Right,
open window.
right.
This is like a sound echo chamber.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why they should contribute to that for all the residents to hear at night.
And there's no smoking allowed anyway. That's New York
No.
City.
But also I would make sure that these doors are not open. There's no reason why any of these tenants should have any access to the back.
But he said they're going in and out these
No,
windows.
no, this is
Yes.
just a
Is that they're going? in-
That's what it's a big,
smoking in there.
yeah, so it's these size windows into the breezeway and as a door essentially.
Well, they should.
They just open the windows so they use.
They just go, I mean, there's cigarette butts, there's trash.
Yeah, that's a new,
Well, it's,
but it's really amplified there.
And so that's the area that he's talking about where the
that's
parties
where
are
the sound
going.
comes from. We do not have any access.
Maybe they should legal acting in there, because there's no, they don't need
Legal access?
air and light. It's not residential.
You don't know.
Don't, that's for your
It's not
Hollywood
residential.
tonight.
They don't need the air and light.
I have to hear what Susan said.
I couldn't tell whether it was a legal or illegal access door to that area.
No, they
No.
don't. It's light and air for tenements.
I
They don't need it as a commercial space.
Right.
It's not a living space.
Right.
And they have front windows. So it's more for like, you know, when there were like 50 people.
Yeah, okay, wait, John,
I just want to get clarification on, which probably you can help with, because you're in the room with us, on what Mr. Obrisky was saying, where they were having parties and being outside. Is that in this little corner area? That's where you mean,
They-
right?
They go in there
In
to
there,
smoke and they leave it open. I mean,
And the
anything
drinking and
going
everything
on.
else is in there, that area, not back here.
okay.
That's a nuisance for sure. I can see that.
Mark, do you agree that they're in that little court?
Yes, it's definitely the air shaft and that's, I mean, that's basically like an echo chamber. It's just, it's very, it's very loud. When it rains, I hear the rain, it's very
They
loud.
could build they don't, again, it's not the same as for a residential, so they could even put a roof in there and it's not open to above. I mean,
They have to
nothing
stop-
substantial.
But they have to stop smoking and drinking in there too.
Well, they have to stop, but they're not gonna stop going into it.
Yeah.
If they have access.
So in
That's
nineteen
what I
ninety,
was trying to understand.
so in 1994, this application was the reestablishment of an office use, which is use group 6. Use group 6 is now divided into a number of different uses, but office use is a very low impact use. Then it evolved into a dressmaking shop and offices. And now we have an art gallery, and suddenly the art gallery's impact seems to be significantly
That's the
different.
change.
And it's expanding, with sharper elbows, and that seems to be the issue. And then if everybody remembers, the reason we brought this up was initially, way back, there was no laundry room in the building. And with the close of laundry services and laundromats, one type of laundromat was also used group 6. And that's what this was taken away to be. But it just seems that as this evolution goes, each time this is reestablished, there's an increasing level of impact that maybe does conflict with residential use. And that was not the original intent. And now it no longer even complements the building, and we have loss of services elsewhere. And so as this evolves each time, and if even though it is use group 6, the C of O specifically says dressmaking shop and offices. So, that's.
Why they put that in there.
They're not
That's why I'm asking.
interchangeable.
Those businesses have hours. This one doesn't seem to follow any sort of set hours. There's no, it definitely doesn't open during the day and it's like a nighttime business. A social business, it's labeled an art gallery, but I think kind of in fluctuation. They don't really know what it is. It's more of a communal space that, you know, it evolves weekly on what the uses are for.
I'd rather hear from the,
Yeah, I was just gonna
but
say,
if
let's,
not, I have
no,
something.
let's hear from, thank you, Mr. Brisky, and we'll turn to a couple other people.
Thank you.
For a cook, Garrett, that'd be great. Yeah, accepting, thank you. Good evening.
Hi,
Yeah.
my name's Barbara Cook Garrick. I also live on the second floor and I'm a tenant in this building for 32 years. And I just want to reiterate what Mark and Greg have said about the trash and the noise. And one afternoon, the art gallery was saging their whole space and the fire department had to come. They really don't seem to have any respect for us as tenants in the building. And in terms of living here, the security in the building is at an all-time low. We have people strung out on drugs in the hallways. We have people ripping open our packages, rummaging through our recycling room. And I just want to say the building is getting more rent if they're allowed to keep these people in the basement. And when are we going to get some improved security in the building, like a video camera, intercom?
You don't have an intercom? Oh, you want a video?
We want our intercom is virtually broken. Like you can't do the talk or the listen, and there is no video for who's at the door.
Mr. Sofaro, there has to be a working intercom. Video, you know, that's a must.
Yeah, well, I have complained to Isaac, the building manager, about that. I have, and I called him.
Okay, well, thank you. But
I just want to reiterate about the noise and the trash and what Mr. Kiernan was saying about the line for the pizza parlor. It does go right in front of our building. So if you also have people trying to get down into the basement area from the two entrances, it's just, it's way more foot traffic than we can handle.
And do you smell the cigarette smoke coming up through the air shaft too? Is that something you've observed?
No, because I'm also in the back of the building.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I was around when the fire department came because the art gallery was saging the space.
Well, okay. Does anyone else have questions?
Are there other, we can't see the whole chat.
Are there any other?
Other attendants on the chat?
I think so. Is Emma Smith, Isabella Tapia?
So that's it.
There's nothing else.
Raise their
The
hand.
participants on top.
Why don't they just raise their hands if they want to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole chat.
Yeah, can we see the participant list too, please? Thank you.
Can we just ask them to raise their hands?
I see Emma Smith, Isabella Tapia. Are any of you residents in the building? Would you like to speak? Underneath, who's underneath?
For Mr. Solfaro.
I'm here.
Sure. What's the name of the art gallery that is in the space?
It just says the name of the person who operates it, Jade McDonough.
I'm sorry, you're a little difficult to hear. Could you say it again?
Jade, Jade, McDonough. McDonoughh. She's the artist.
Okay, thank you.
Is that Jay or Jane? J-A-D-E.
Jade.
Jade, like the jewel, the semi-precious jewel.
Thank you. Okay, Frederica, you have a hand up?
Yes, thanks. I understand about the laundromat, that it would be nice to have a laundromat, but the loss of services or the type of use group 6 that's in the building is really, in my experience, it's not part of our purview. If I feel like most of what we're hearing is not a land use problem. It's an individual tenant problem. And so many of these things ought to be handled by the landlord. These problems should be directed to the owner of the building. The thing that confuses me the most is that in my experience, the use group, the permission for the use group follows the address. It doesn't attach to the individual tenant. So it doesn't matter which art gallery, which music store, which laundromat, as long as it's use group 6, it ought to be allowed. And I just don't understand. I feel like what the BSA is putting you through about this is just a complete departure from their usual modus operandi. So is that your experience also, Mr. Safaro?
Only in this case. In other cases, I haven't had that question come up. But they specifically said, we approved the reviewer, not the board panel themselves. But the
Right.
reviewer cited saying that he approved a custom dressmaking shop. If you want to change it to something else, file an amendment.
Right, if it were a different use group. So what I would like to just
Not
share with the committee.
We spelled out specifically, this is the same use group.
But
Otherwise,
just for
allow people
clarification,
into
use
occupancy.
group 6 has 4 different subsets, of which one is an
Use
office.
group 6.
Yeah,
Well, use group 6B is, right? Do you know what use group 6B is? Well,
Exactly.
There's A, B, C, and D, but they're all use group 6.
categorizing, that's not correct.
And there's no statements on the gallery.
6 which? 6A, B, or C?
Well, if it's 6, it's all of the.
There's something in the chat.
But my point is, I feel like our job is to distinguish between the things that are specific to the bad actors versus the extension of use group 6 in the building.
But the BSA has told the attorney that isn't the way they're looking at it. They're asking us to do something.
But you can see what Pete's saying. This was originally approved as use group 6B. It specifically says offices. Offices are a subset of use group 6B.
Is
No, that is not use group 6B.
6B.
That is explicit in 1994. And then they asked in 2004 to expand it to dressmaking, which is a different subset, defined separately. And use group 6 is very broad, but what are you going to put a police station in down there? Because that falls under broad use group 6. There's a million uses, but this is supposed to be an accessory non-impactful use. I mean, and I think that what Pete has put in there, which I can't see all of it, is
right. I wish
it says 6C is a different subset. And I mean, this is all technical, but these are the impacts that these different types of businesses have. And and if you look at the C of O on the building, it's actually been evolved as well. It's gone from group 6 offices. In fact, I'll tell you exactly what it says. So
it's slowly morphing.
Yeah, exactly. In 1994, it was 3 offices, boiler room, and storage.
Is this a C1 overlay zone?
No.
No.
It's a pure RC.
In 2005, it evolved to custom dressmaking and office, boiler room, and storage. And then in 2015, it's even further split out on the C of O to have use group 6 custom dressmaking and offices, and then use group 2 for the meter room, storage room, and boiler room. But
so are you saying that the music store that's been there for 20 years has been in violation?
it depends on the category of how it's used.
It's not a music store.
I don't think that's the case at all.
No,
Use group 15 is use group 6. Use group 6 is use group 6. There are memos from the building department that tell you specifically, whenever you have a change of occupancy from a use in one particular use group to another use within the same use group, that is no change in occupancy.
Right.
That's published. I don't know why the Board of Standards Appeals make an issue with this.
Donna?
Well, just to Carter's point, the way he's operating this music premises is for himself as like a personal business doing it, selling an office, as opposed to a music store with people coming in and going or recording.
It was a joke, the sign is a joke.
The problem, really.
Well, exactly. And I think that's the point, is that that fits in with the office kind of use group 6 use versus what this seems to be morphing into, which is more of an impact, more public access art gallery.
And then
The
art
art
gallery is used
The
for
the dressmaker
It's
wasn't
not an art gallery, it's not listed at all.
you know?
So use group 6C, which an art gallery is a retail or service establishment. And a retail or service establishment is people coming, and going,
Right.
higher traffic.
Right.
And I'm just making the distinction because this is the impact that's coming and a slow evolution.
So what if we just say that we approve the continued use of the music/office space, and we don't approve the art gallery as it's currently being run?
I mean, you can
But
even have to
in-
call
in
it music,
theory-
it's just an office.
But in theory, we have nothing against the continued use of use group 6.
As office space.
Depends.
I wouldn't use,
Well,
6, use group 6 is a whole bunch
A
of
lot of
things.
things.
It's so many
I
things.
can't remember the last time we had a thing where it boiled down to a subset of a use group.
I did
Why?
on Gansford Street. We had an entire building that had to come to us for variance and we got significant
No,
community
that-
concessions.
Subset of one use.
Yes,
group.
it was. It's allowed. Only use group 6B was allowed there.
Thank you so much. Great.
Also, an art gallery is like an opportunity to have a party. You know, who says they're not selling art while they're having wine and discussing it?
You can sell wine without a liquor.
And I think what you want is something that's
I mean, you can give away.
regularly open to the.
You can't.
I'm gonna go look. That's good memory.
All art galleries in Soho close at about 5 or 5:30. I just want to say that.
Well, openings are not at
Thursday
5:30,
night. Sure.
but I'm just saying it's an opportunity to be misused.
I agree.
So,
No social media for it as a gallery under her.
Right.
I know,
so it's currently use group, is it 6D, Carter?
Well, it says offices, which have a very specific subset, and retail is very different.
Well, it's
You know,
called
that's a
commercial.
different subset and. You know, I understand. What Mr. Solfaro is saying, but we're also looking at the impact
Right.
here. And to say that it's completely interchangeable, I think. It doesn't necessarily coexist in the basement where there's a variance, you know. Plenty of technicalities, but 3 offices is very different.
well, and we're hearing about it and it's a problem.
Well,
And it-
but we have to distinguish between all the garbage and the noise and the traffic.
No,
from
we're,
the-
We are,
I'm talking about the street, we all live in
Yeah.
that environment, but
Yeah, it's the pizza place, that's nothing to do with it.
but I think the reason we see the dressmaking being so specifically mentioned is that it would be a low impact use. And now we've come to something which is
Potential.
not inherently a high impact, but it can be, and it is,
on the way it's being used.
yes.
And clearly, using the air shaft is inexcusable and a big nuisance. I could see how that would drive everyone crazy.
So why don't we just distinguish between the office/music space and the art gallery and approve the one and.
Yeah, well, that's what we're getting to.
They're saying that the music store is use group 6C, the art gallery is use group 6C, and the other art gallery space is use group 6C. That's on the paperwork submitted for this.
We don't want 6.
Well, then,
I'm just saying that's what they
well, that makes it
submitted.
harder to disapprove one and not the other.
I think we ought to inform the BSA about discussion in saying that we have no problem with the music offices, because that's what they are. And I think that we ought to say, we've encountered problems with the other uses that are slowly morphing in to a different subset of C, and we would like the BSA to further consider our comments and if in granting an extension to this application. I think that's the best that we could do.
But if they're all in this, I agree with you, but if they're all in the same subgroup, it's very hard.
Well, let's.
But it wasn't originally.
Sure. are there any more comments from the public? We seem to have slid into executive a little bit. Are there any more comments from the public? It's been very good to have you here and to be able to ask you questions. Have you presented everything you need to Mr. Kiernan?
I think so.
Good. Okay, you're,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
okay. Seeing no further comments from the public, I just want to tell the public, you're welcome to stay. We're gonna continue what we've already sort of started, our discussion among ourselves. You're welcome to stay and listen. That's not a problem, but you know, we won't, you won't be participating unless we have a technical question to ask you. Yeah. I know.
Mark,
Yes.
could Mark please move the public back to the attendees from the Zoom?
And just
Thank you.
Mr. Sofaro wanna.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, anything further from Mr. Sofaro, just
I always want to talk
Any-
back here, you know.
you have any- a comment before we move you out?
Yeah, well,
Feel like now I can be quiet.
it just seems to me that what's been described by people as some nuisance issues with respect to the art gallery. I don't see that the art gallery, should be having social events. Not aware of those, or loud parties that would disturb residents or neighbors. But I think that kind of thing can be controlled, perhaps by sealing off the tenant storage space, keeping those doors locked so that you don't have access to the open yard in the back. That's one way. The shaft, you have windows and a door on the bottom. The door can be locked. The windows can be locked as well. There's a court inside as well in the space that's being occupied as art gallery. There's a small shaft there. I don't know if you were aware of that. It looks like two shafts. I remember the dressmaker used to go. They had a step stool, and they would go, and rather than walk around from one side of the building to the other to access part A and part B, they would walk through the shaft. They would go through there. So I know that shaft is still in there. But I think those windows could be closed off. They're not necessarily required for the basement use itself. So I think the items that have been complained of can be addressed.
Then the paperwork.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
She's just on Instagram. Okay, we're done, Max.
Okay.
We talked that one to death.
I did confirm that every use there now is in the same subgroup, right?
No.
I thought it
So
was.
originally,
No, now what's in there? Art
well,
gallery.
this isn't approved. What's in there now?
What was the original?
It was originally 3 offices. That was the original
60s.
the 60. It's 6B,
6B.
B as in boy.
Mhm.
So it was 3 offices, and then they came back to reestablish it in 1995, and it was again 3 offices. But they came back in 2004, and there was an expansion, and they amended it, and they changed from office to dressmaking.
And that's.
And now the dressmaking, I am looking just at if it's specifically named, let me see if that,
Clothing store?
no, because it's. I'm just looking down a list. I mean, and also I don't know when, these separate subject sections of the use group were established. Anita may know this, but I do not. But in the evolution, it is now the lexicon is being changed to use the contemporary use groups and the renewal. I don't know if a dressmaking shop where that would fit in as clothing rental, which is different, clothing accessory stores, but dressmaking shop is a little more manufacturing, not a fabric store. Those are all in use group C. But a shoe or hat repair shop is in convenience retail or service establishment. So dressmaking shop, I'm sure an argument made it's use group 6A, which is a convenience retail or service
Well,
establishment.
then if it's professional services, that would be B. That's-
Anyway, my point is that each time this is reviewed, it's evolving. And to a higher and higher impact use, and art gallery is.
Clearly.
Okay,
Can I interject something? I was there with the custom dressmaking shop. I did this variance 10 years ago. If you heard the custom dressmaking shop, you would hear a lot of noise. Those sewing machines, they rattle the building. I mean, my mother was a seamstress. I know what she did in our house. These machines that they had over there were very noisy. So I don't see any, change in impact. If anything, it's probably less than what the dressmaking shop produced. You're talking specifically about noise.
So what is the action that we are now? It's
A.
extension of the special permit, right?
Extension of the use, yes.
The extension of the special permit. And is there a term on that?
Yes.
10 years.
10 years. So what? Excuse me?
we've been reading the materials for 2
Does it
months
annoy you that I asked a simple question?
because we.
Why did
Go
that
ahead.
annoy you?
It's what it's all about.
Why, but did I ask you, did anybody ask you to comment on what I just said?
Go ahead, don't detour here. It's too much.
Well, one of the,
The variance.
So
The variance.
the 2004 variance, I'll read directly from variance, just to Bo's asking a good question, right? So it specifically says in the 2004 variance, that whereas the applicant currently seeks to legalize the conversion to cellar office space to a custom dressmaking and sales shop. Now they're seeking to further legalize it to the new use, which is an art gallery, which is use group 6C, whereas the dressmaking shop is use group 6A. So while it is staying within use group 6, these changes within there are, I think, significant from the perspective of the impact.
Well, the
and
calling it
how
an
it
art
fits in.
gallery.
And so if you use that argument of any use group 6 is okay, if they originally came, that's probably not true because it would have been significantly more impactful and not in cohesion in the basement of a residential building, which is why I keep making the point that every 10 years this use evolves. And I'm not so sure we have to be okay with that.
It's also why they're asking for specifically these uses.
That's right.
And that allows us to weigh in. Otherwise,
Otherwise, they wouldn't be asking.
right.
Well, they'd be asking, but it might be much more pro forma.
Yeah, it would just be an extension.
And they were told they had to ask, which is.
That's that. So that's what we're gonna comment on.
so,
Actually,
so we approved the continued use of the music office. This is not a problem. And so,
by that tenant.
and that's a 6A,
Yeah,
right?
By that tenant.
I think we could word craft this very well, say this was our discussion. Except for red flag, I mean, we could really word craft this.
Yes,
Let's just.
but we approved the 6A for the westernmost office,
Wasn't 6A.
or is it in 6A office? Carter,
What is presented to us, sorry, and
I don't
The
know.
application is 6C on the diagram.
Go into that.
in the paperwork that's presented to us, they're further amending this now to what would be under a use group 6C, which is the art gallery, the music store, and it's in the diagram on the last number of pages and what is linked on the website right now under account. So it's saying it's,
Oh, yeah,
you can see there's a evolution
yeah.
of just these, and it's the impact.
Well, the office on the
I would be.
2004 diagram is just use group 6.
There is no more office.
Now it's the
Diagram.
music store.
No, she was saying two thousand.
I would argue that the music, I mean, what we keep calling the music store is an office.
I would say,
Yeah, right, that's what I was-
as explained to us by
Yeah.
the tenant.
Yeah.
That
I
is
think,
the
I think
music,
it's a disservice to keep calling it a music store.
it's not, yeah.
It's not.
Great.
But this is on the paperwork.
I know, but we've been
Yeah, that's now what's on the
explaining, we
paperwork.
can say why we.
Just, yeah.
It's us.
It's clearly an office.
Could you imagine a different art gallery operator that didn't have parties, that didn't smoke, that just had things in the window and people came and went? Could you imagine that would be, we wouldn't be comfortable with that under
Yeah,
a
I
different
would
hands?
imagine that because
They're in a basement, though. There is no window.
there's a window, I think there's a window that looks out to that because you
Shaft.
step down, so you get that shaft in the
Down a
front.
full store.
But I would say that anything, potentially that brings the public in on a routine basis is problematic.
But a dressmaker would.
A dressmaker does not bring the same number of people in as an art gallery would. A dressmaker
It's manufactured.
gets somebody in once or twice a day to drop something off. It's not a store thing. The art gallery has people coming and goings, and art gallery has openings and all those sorts of things. So it's the dressmaker is the manufacturing, more office. I mean, there's a little tailor on West Fourth Street that's there that you walk, but I mean, one person walks in and out. It's a little tiny, he probably has one, you know.
I've been in that dressmaker.
And that's, so I actually live above an art gallery. And so the other thing is for the art galleries, there are, they load in and load out their installations on a monthly or, periodic basis. So there is a lot of deliveries, typically large amounts of things coming in and out. And of course, the public coming in during business hours and every opening.
And every opening, which to the point that I did walk down that particular block a couple times in the past week and was like, oh my gosh, the people that live here specifically because of the pizza place lines. And now you have another one that just opened on Bleecker around the corner.
It wasn't for the art.
No, it wasn't, I mean, and that's not their problem, but if I was evaluating this for something different, I would turn around and say, what is the impact? Because this is occasionally going to be drawing lines, or how can people get, it's just furthering.
It's not enormously safe to walk down these stairs.
No, it's very dangerous. We have been asked to approve hours of operation 10 to 6, Monday through Saturday, closed on Sundays, and we're hearing about things at 9 and 10 o'clock. This is in the paperwork the attorney sent us. And there have always been restricted hours at this space. Everywhere every resident has
Well,
restricted
the
hours.
impact is so much bigger. Once you add more than 1 or 2 people, it's a party, and it's a party environment too on the street, so it just filters in. Not the right place for it. Who knows how much art
Just to
there
be
is.
clear, we're not asking for those things.
You're not involved right now. Can you mute him, Mark, please? We'll have you. We need you.
Are we in exec?
Yes.
Okay.
Are these
Or
folks?
just make him not a panelist, then.
So what?
No.
Yeah.
Folks are trying to talk.
Yeah,
Can you clarify what direction we're going? Are we going to recommend approval of the art gallery with conditions? Or are we going to oppose the art gallery and approve the other uses of the space?
And we're gonna say
I'm
why
not
we,
sure what direction we're looking at.
and Michael, we're gonna say why we oppose it. We have, that it's inappropriate. It's the wrong use, the wrong subset. It's there's noise. There seems to be less of an art gallery, more of an event space. We could talk about.
So therefore, we're going to list all the problems we've heard about as why we oppose the art gallery.
I think we just can't say no. I think we have to justify what we're doing.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you.
So are we going to say that, are we going to say that we recommend use group 6A for the music office and 6B for the 2 center spaces?
Well, I would say just less impactful.
I agree. We shouldn't. Right.
You
Okay.
It's
I don't
just.
think A and B is right. I thought it was B and C.
I would
Pedantic.
They don't, music
If I
store,
could be pedantic for a second, offices are 6B, not 6A.
Yeah, so a tailor and dress shop are use group 6A,
Okay,
and office is use group 6B,
and what is B?
is office 6B.
Okay, okay.
And art galleries are C. Now, and just to the point that the music store, interesting, a music store is also defined in use group 6C. However, as David pointed out, and Bo or whoever, that the operation is his office. It is not open, even though he may say music store, air quotes, right?
He said Joe.
It's his personal office.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is consistent with the original going all the way back to the beginning.
Right.
It's these two connected spaces that seem to just roll along. You know, in 10 years, we could see an application for a restaurant there because that's a use group 6C too.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
Exactly.
You know, the types of.
It's slowly morphing. And we want to put a.
I'm not saying that's what they do, but just to give the logic connects to that.
We have a consensus.
Yes.
Yeah, but I want to know, consensus is good, but I need specifics.
David's volunteering to write.
And now I know he's.
No.
Okay, so here's the question. Do we recommend specific subdivisions of use group 6 for the spaces?
No. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Or do we say, I don't know how we say no art gallery, and then they'll come up with something else which is high impact.
If you look at the resolution every 10 years.
Yeah, but.
Look at the whereases, you will see the evolution within those whereases. And that's where we want to say that we are not okay with an evolution. But we would be okay with something that more closely matches the low impact use. And now, use of sewing machines, I mean, look, it all depends on what kind of sewing machines you're using, you know, the type of equipment, whatever.
they're dying too. There's no more
Right.
seat.
But the idea is that it's certainly much more keeping the hours of operation, which they've offered. But the impacts of just people coming in and out on a regular basis, just matches the is.
Individual variance.
I think she was. Oh, you're next, but I'm gonna just say, I have been in that dressmaking shop. I think she was bringing her clothes in from Israel. And then you would go and you could sort of get them customized, but it wasn't a sweatshop. She had things and then she would.
So like by appointment, you would.
Yeah, you could have to go in by appointment. But you had to call and make sure she was there. You know?
That's a big difference.
But she wasn't making the things there.
Big difference.
I think.
It wasn't a sweatshop.
And it had, the alteration of the resolution over time is not, is a little tricky because in 2004, they said use group 6. But it doesn't say A, B, or C.
That's why I would stay away from.
Katie, you are
that.
correct, but if you look at the whereas, one of them, it delineates specifically office and dress.
Yes, it does.
And those are both defined
Yes.
And
within the subsets. And you know, and I just raised again, if this was originally an art gallery with noise, I don't think anybody would have been okay with it, right? And so you can't end up there now and suddenly okay.
Well, in 2014, and the last two whereases are very important to what we're talking about. Number 8, there have been no known complaints regarding the current use. Well, that's changed. Number 9, no one appeared at this hearing to speak for or against this application.
Well, that's because, thank you for doing that. We actually had it.
And Mr. Sofaro was very cooperative.
Did it.
Writing this is that you may want to say is consistent with the original application for 3 offices in its level of impact.
Good, yeah.
Because that's consistent with the original and
It's not consistent.
that's right.
So,
We're not saying what it is, but I don't think any of us would have a problem.
so
So it's not an extension.
No.
Right, that's right.
It's a reinvention. So what I,
Variance of a variance.
right, so what I'm saying, what I suggest is that we reference our previous positions, explain what's changed, approve the continuation of office use group 6B, and say we object to the expansion of the uses to use group 6C as personified by the current art gallery.
Because
I don't.
I would,
Do that.
I would agree to some extent with that, but instead I would say agree to the original office use in parentheses, which is now use group 6B.
No,
Because
but
that
I'm
didn't
getting
exist in the
addressing the
past.
art gallery problem.
No, but I'm,
well,
yeah, but I'm just trying to phrase this in exactly how it was originally presented, because in the 50s, these use groups didn't
Okay.
exist with the difference.
They're changing again.
That's right.
Object to the higher.
To object to the expansion of uses
Yeah,
to use group 6.
no, just
Or
beyond
B to
offices.
C, if you want to say.
But I wouldn't use the subsections because it was not in the original application. I would state the specific use.
That's having it come to us now.
It may,
Yeah.
no, it may
said that,
be,
but what-
but what I'm saying is that I would use the original language because that is the original approval. You
You
can't,
can have low impact.
right,
That's the whole point. I don't think anybody's gonna have trouble understanding this, by the way. I think we just have to explain what the problems are and why we're rejecting it.
And I think using the term gallery all the time is really in a way is misleading as a
Yeah.
music store.
No, we're talking about the art gallery.
No, I know, it's not an art gallery. I mean, they want to call it an art gallery. The office is a music store, yeah.
So should Carter and Donna, should the residents be complaining to the state liquor authority about liquor at these events? Is that,
that's enforced by the New York City Police Department. Because they do not have a license.
Right.
No,
Really, what you want to do.
you're supposed to
People
no-
getting in
no,
contact with owners,
business
a lot of these.
can serve alcohol without a permit or license.
I mean, you should look it up.
Doesn't matter.
What it is, S&W management for Marshall, somebody.
Well, also, correct me if I'm wrong, there was clearly here an underlying accusation that people didn't want to come out and say that these people are kind of sketchy, the people who operate the so-called art gallery, and there's something maybe insecure about going in there, or is that?
Not an art gallery. It's just.
All right.
That's like.
It's know exactly what he does because they work in the same business. It's fine.
Okay.
The other thing,
Well,
nobody knows.
Yeah, okay.
Also,
Right,
there's
we-
a
This
basic
isn't business. I just,
consideration
Order, I just
when
want to keep this in
smoking
business
in
session.
the establishment.
Right,
I think
right,
that's
right.
like unacceptable. If you want to get kicked out, that's a good way to do it.
okay, there's someone on the line?
Eugene says something.
Eugene?
point of order, just I wanted to keep it in business session. It seems like we're taking comments from the public, so.
Okay.
There's answers to direct.
Well, I asked him a question, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay, so all in favor of agreeing to the continuation of the office use, but not, but objecting to the extension into the higher impact, into new uses which have a higher and negative impact.
yes.
Right.
I feel like we have to characterize the excesses of the current tenant as a reason why the art gallery is.
We are definitely going to justify.
Can I offer that the art gallery almost sounds like it's operating as an event space, like a limited type, I mean, if.
We
Does
don't
seem
really
to be
know.
that-
It cannot be
know.
an event space. I mean, this place is, you have to go down these steep stairs. It's one of those spaces.
They're having those parties then.
It's a social space, but it's not really an event.
Events for.
And are we going to, are we going to make this?
Definitely.
Are we going to make the suggestions of locking those windows and roofing the,
I think we should say there's a problem and there's a solution,
okay,
and the landlord should take care of that.
Not BSA.
No,
the landlord, but it's an opportunity to, I think, because there are solutions that should happen anyway. No
I
one
mean,
should
if they,
be.
if they want this variance, they should make it so that
This
it
is the
works
time
for
to
the
do it.
residents in the building.
and for the neighborhood, because the fact is if there's some security issues.
The lawyer will
in-
talk to his client about it.
I don't want people being able to access anything other than their space.
Yes.
And that means air shop, back of the building, just
Right.
confine it to their little step
My premise.
and their space, and they have a bathroom, that's all they need. Yeah, I
Okay.
think we have to be very,
Um,
that is a security problem.
under new business, I want to mention two things. We have been approached by someone to come and, present about community land trusts, which is really part of the affordable housing, umbrella that we'll be looking at. So I hope that Eugene and I can work on that and have them come and make a brief presentation next time. I don't remember right now, I don't have it in front of me, but is this the one you sent to me?
That's fine.
And are they in the city? Are they?
Meetings,
local or-
Yeah, it's good.
He's gone. Like I said, it's too hot in here.
Tonight, it is.
Oh, yeah.
We, obviously, the public use of us is,
But this is more universal, and that we can learn from it. And secondly,
Came up with Elizabeth Street Garden too.
yes,
no, that was a piece of conservation land question.
Looking
Oh,
at
conservation.
it's a little different, I guess. And secondly, Mark and Susan and Eugene and I have been working on retaining George James to help us with the City of Yes Housing Opportunity. He's working with community boards 1, 6, 8, and 10 so far. It's 3, so it looks like about half of Manhattan is going to be hiring him. We have the money. He invoiced us for the economic opportunity and he kept it at $3,000, even though we worked a good deal more. And Mark assures us that we have the money to maybe even give him more this time around if he needs it.
that's great.
So that'll be helpful. And
Yeah,
and
that's
maybe he can come, he'll be ready, maybe he'll be ready to come and talk next time.
Okay, so if I could just jump in real quick on that, you and Eugene and Susan will need to decide the scope of what you want him to do, because the first tranche of his work will be on an hourly basis, not a fixed fee basis. And you'll want to have some input on what it is you want to direct him to first, and then as other boards get involved. And then to the second point, we've got a lot of money in that street fair, and council member and the Office of Management and Budget keeps throwing that in my face every time I tell them that they're not funding something they should, like our rent. So we should be seen as spending that a little bit on the things that we say this is for, and this kind of use is exactly what it's for.
Okay, so that's good.
So could you talk us through what the calendar is gonna look like? Because they're gonna present this in April, and then we're gonna have 60 days, right?
Correct.
So we're,
It's not a Euler, it's.
right, they're going
Yeah,
to
it's
follow
flexible.
the Euler schedule to some
Correct.
degree. So if we don't, if our April meeting is before the presentation date in April,
Mhm.
can we afford not to discuss this in depth? Because we may off only May and June.
That is correct.
Not the June.
Right, our June meeting would be the 20 something.
Yeah, so we
so-
want to be sure we don't get stuck with only 1 month.
Okay, so I will look at the calendar with that in mind. I don't have it
Mhm.
memorized here. I will say that there is a nice throwback to a previous era, which is that when the project gets certified, there's an actual 5-day grace period before the 60 days starts. That was built into the statute because they wanted to allow for regular mail to get to you. But you're right, 65 days could put us right up against the June full board meeting. 2 meetings.
If we're lucky.
So I think the point is that maybe one of those meetings should be April, and that's.
Right.
More importantly, is getting George on track in a manner that's meaningful to our community board.
Yeah.
And that means there's not like there's gonna be a mystery in what's presented, right? because most of it has been.
That one's already up there.
Yeah, so we really need, for this to be useful to us, we need this write-up
Right.
before that first
Right.
meeting, and then maybe subsequent, just
Yeah.
because that's the hardest part, is digesting what's relevant to us, and that's the. And that's the value
Can't hear you.
that we're paying him for, is the early information, not at the last.
Right, but do you think?
If I could
Yeah.
speak to that, because one of the things I suggested to Eugene and Katie is that the first work that would be useful for him to do for you is what he did in the first tranche of economic opportunity, which is to parse what we know already and those things that are relevant to our district as opposed to some other, and present that to you. And then you could then run a meeting like you did in November saying, do we care about this? Do we care about that? And you'd have some information from your consultant to back up whatever that might be. Now, is that, I can do that tomorrow if that's a consensus.
Because I think we want that the first meeting,
Yes, absolutely. That's my point.
you know, so we can get the follow-up.
Right, but even more than the previous one, this one has a lot of information in it and a lot of changes that have nothing to do with us. Really, what we're interested in is how the density will affect historic districts and what are the, how can we encourage affordable housing in our neighborhood? And all the parking, all the ADUs, there's a lot of it that is irrelevant that he might be working on for other people, but we want to be sure he doesn't spend any.
We know what this
for us.
is working with, doing. which
1,
board?
6, 8, 10,
What is it?
I'm not sure about 10.
6, 8, maybe 10 and maybe 3.
If those are all Manhattan community boards, then I mean, all of those as well will not, you know, there's no parking in all of Manhattan, I believe, right? So we don't have any.
No, that's
parking minimums.
below 96.
To 480.
Which in would, and think that's like 10 or 11.
Okay, but there's no ADUs in Manhattan.
Very limited.
It falls, I mean, I think I think it's much more clear cut in this as opposed to the economic opportunity one, which ones are relevant to us, because all the things about town centers, ADUs, they're clearly not applicable to us.
Yeah, I mean, Federica just clarified that for us too.
Yeah,
But we should not overlook campus.
Right.
Oh, that's a huge.
Campus housing issue.
Right.
Sometimes I've heard people saying it doesn't apply to us. I think we better know about it.
Right.
It's good for
Doesn't
him
apply
to recycle the work he's doing for other boards, but a lot of it just isn't relevant.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should get confused by, this is the largest seeker in the history of our environmental review ever in New York City, but that doesn't mean that it's our largest.
Yeah. And we dealt with some large ones.
What was the building that's, I believe, and I don't remember precisely where it was, but I believe it's in the proximity of where Laura Tenenbaum lives, that was built with a couple of garage spaces. Does anybody recall that
Crosby.
building?
Do know.
What was that about? Yeah.
There, actually, I walked by there.
What was that about and why was that? Do you remember?
I remember
I
that.
remember the project.
Yeah, they.
Why did they have to? Because I think that was one of those special residential permits,
They did have.
right? Because they also have parking in
There have been,
25 Bond Street.
there have been,
I think that there's some, I don't know, I'm just, why were those put in or were those required?
Yeah.
Because
were those
of,
required or are those amenities?
I think they may have been required because that's what I remember from Crosby.
there's one on Houston Street.
The one on Crosby Street, why I remember it, because they argued, they wanted to not have it, I believe.
Okay,
So in addition, it's raised, but it was a.
Must be for like 5 cars, because it's got an elevator and they don't not out.
To understand that.
a motion to adjourn.
Yes. Motion to adjourn. Thank you.
The letter from Garodnick about how they changed the housing,
Yeah,
I mean, the economic.
yeah.
That would have been interesting to talk about too.
I know, I thought that we made some, impact.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
That would have been worth mentioning.
Well, we'll mention it next time. Bring it up next time. Carter.